Welcome to No More Rules, the impact of being you no matter what. A movement to awaken your inner power and be the creator of your own healthy life. With hosts Steph Yost and Camille Barreto, where clean eating is at the core of our inner growth by honoring our body and health. They will help shift perceptions, encourage thinking outside the box, and overcoming limiting behaviors and beliefs. You are worthy of living your best life, developing your inner power with clean eating and healthy lifestyle, and discovering your awesomeness. No More Rules starts now.
Hi, I am Steph Yost, and this is Camille, and our special guest today, NICOLE BIANCHI. NICOLE has written a fabulous book, Small Brave Moves, and we have enjoyed, Camille and I have just loved having guests on our show. It brings a whole nother perspective to every concept that we feel is important with our No More Rules show, of just like stepping out of boundaries and learning more from other people for not only our weight loss clients, but friends and family and whoever is listening to this, is because there's so much to learn and grow from with all these other great people that we've met along the way. I want to introduce NICOLE and let you know how I met her. I met her at an empowerment breakfast in Omaha, Nebraska, where I was just one of the people who came that day and told a little bit about the business that I was helped doing some marketing for, and NICOLE was the guest speaker. And I was just like, oh, can't believe, well, of course I'm at the right place at the right time. I always am. It's like, it was meant to be that I met her. And of course I bought her book, and she lived in Papillion, or lives in Papillion, and I lived there at the time. So I set up a lunch with her. It was a while before we got together, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We did. And we had a great time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, small, brave moves. I'm all about that. Shining bright. Sometimes they seem like crazy moves that I've done. And I just think having you on the show is just such a blessing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation.
We haven't talked yet, so this is the first time Camille has met her. So we just kind of want to jump right in and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I worked inside of a couple of Fortune 300 companies in a variety of HR, organizational development, executive roles. And I somehow always was put into these roles where I was expected to change, alter, transform. They'd kind of throw me into us and say, go make this better. You've got a couple years to do that. And found that was kind of my superpower, something I really enjoyed getting in there and not just helping leaders, but helping the teams and then ultimately the business in making some shifts and changes that they were looking for. And after doing that for about 16 years, I paused and said, I really want to fulfill kind of this thing I've always talked about, which was starting my own business, which is just going on its 11th year this year. So 11 years. Yeah. I made my own small brave move and said, okay, I'm going to go out and do this on the outside because I saw a tremendous need. Two, I wanted to hone in on the part of HR and organizational development that I loved most, which was leadership development and team development. And I'll tell you what, I've never looked back. That was the biggest move. And I'm so grateful that I said yes. I didn't have the perfect business plan. I didn't have a whole list of clients. I started off with a small group of 3 or 4 trusted confidants that I said, hey, I want to try this. I want to kind of dip my toe in the water. And one of my first clients was a Fortune 10 company. Wow. GE, and going in and building a coaching program for 80 of their sites at GE Aviation. And it was over after that. I was in love with the work and the clients and just really loving working with leaders who wanted to grow and be better at what they're doing.
Okay, so the title of your book, Small Brave Moves. Tell me where that came from, darling.
It was, so I found that in the leadership programming work inside and then on the outside now as a consultant, that the common missing element in leaders was bravery. So we would work hard on the skills and the tools and all of this, and then they'd go back right into their culture, their environment, and they were just unsure. They lacked the confidence, and then they were lacking the frequency of implementing these things. So then I said, okay, we've got to talk about bravery. We've got to talk about bravery and leadership and how you have to have the combination of both. and how that creates a competitive advantage for us as leaders. And anytime I talk to a leader about the word bravery, they're immediately like, whoa, 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 whoa. I am not that brave at all. Like, people reserve it for like the heroic, iconic moves and actions, like the big, bold things. And it's like, no, 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 no. So I wanted to dispel the myth of, bravery being this huge thing. Then it's like, no, no, no. Let's talk about what small, brave moves look like and how you and I both have access to do this every single day.
Okay, so tell me what bravery looks like.
Bravery looks like something so small as raising your hand and in a meeting and articulating your opinion, or sharing an opposing view, right? Challenging the status quo, having a conversation that needs to happen, that inside it needs to happen and you haven't had it yet. I call them tough conversations. Something, which is a little bit bigger, but even finding your voice and being able to say, you know what, I'd like to share an opposing view of that. Or I don't want to say that I don't have the answer at the moment, that I want time to process it, but how do I say that without feeling like I'm not the expert, and saying, you know what, I have some thoughts about that, but I'd like some time to think about it. And so just those small, brave moves and taking a little bit of control when in those moments where we feel, we just feel like, not at our best, right? Whether it's fear, anxiety, or how people are going to react to what we're saying.
Right. So do you really connect with Brene Brown? Because I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and you kind of come out of the gates reminding me of Brene Brown.
It's so funny. You're going to love this. I was just at a speaking engagement last week where somebody walks up to me on stage before, and she goes, girl, you remind me of Brene Brown, like your hair, your voice, and I'm like, really? So here's what, and I'll tell you, when I was writing Small Brave Moves, my editor and my publishing company had to really help me get past the mindset of like, well, wait, she's got the market on this. I mean, she's doing all this great work. And they were like, listen, your voice is very different. She's a researcher. You're working inside companies doing the work. Everybody has a voice on this and it's different. So just go. So they had to really push me along, because I felt like, I don't want to be like a Brene Brown part 2, it's a different take. Right. But I'll tell you what, I love her work, and I love her work on vulnerability, because vulnerability precedes trust. And if we can't be vulnerable, and you see this in corporate environments where individuals kind of be robotic and, just kind of play the part of whatever they have to play, and they're not their true, most authentic selves. And her work is so powerful in that we have to show up as our authentic selves to even be a bit braver in the work that we do.
And I was thinking that as you were saying that, and I don't know about you, Steph, but we've been in moments where, okay, yeah, you don't want to offend anybody, but you were just sitting there saying, having the courage to raise your hand and just ask a question and hope that nobody else thinks you're stupid. But that's also showing up vulnerable. And I'm talking to so many of our male clients that are very scared of being vulnerable. And I don't know if you see that with men, but showing up vulnerable is actually true courage. And then that courage leads to bravery.
Yes, yes. I do see, I'll tell you what, it's interesting, because I think a lot of individuals think that this is the fear and the anxiety is reserved for females only. And I mean, the work around imposter syndrome and the fear of not being perfect or not having it all right or figured out impacts men and women equally. Yes. Now, here's what's fascinating about the research, if you go further, is it exponentially impacts high performers. So those are the ones that even deal with it so much more. They're constantly questioning whether they deserve to be on that stage or in that room or leading that conversation or presentation. And so I find for men and women equally, now how it shows up, it might be a little bit different, but I have just as many male coaching clients as I do female.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because I think we see these people on stage like you getting up in front of thousands of people, and we forget your humanness, that, oh my gosh, you know what? She's making small brave moves every day. She just consistently does it. And the more I showed up and started doing it, because I was so small and insecure for so long, and it was so scary to make those small brave moves. But the more I did them, the more I'm like, you know what? The world didn't come to an end. show up
Yeah.
and do it again. It's okay.
I will never forget the first time I went to facilitate a workshop where somebody had hired me, was paying me money to do this. And I was with somebody else that was a close colleague, friend, somebody who I just thought the world of. And I remember thinking when they announced me and I was getting ready to walk up, I thought, I'm literally going to pass out right now. Like I could feel it all in my body. I felt sick. I wasn't sure what's going to happen. And he looked at me and I think he saw that look on my face. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And immediately I thought, what are you doing, Nicole? You have no business being here. You didn't sign up, like, what are you doing? And he grabbed my hand. We walked up on like the stage. He pulled up a chair and sat there as I presented my information, just to be there with me, be there for me. And then I was like, okay. So then I realized at that point, one, the fear is going to creep in. Two, what is your process or routine before that so that you can get the butterflies in formation and lean into the power and the energy of them. So even before, so I have a big speaking gig tomorrow. Tonight, I block my whole evening. I have a routine I lean into. And then the next morning, I will have a routine leading up to it so that I can lessen the fear, the anxiety, the things that go through our heads, everybody's, so that I can, when I get on that stage, I can show up as my very best self. And I know when I don't do that routine or I let other things creep in, I'm not at my best.
And then the second you step on that stage, does it all just dissipate? It's
Yes.
like, I
Yes.
got this. I'm
Yeah.
here. But it's so we do that in so many situations. It's like we have all of this fear and this anxiety build up. And as soon as you're in your realm and you're doing it and you're shining bright and you're the speaker on that stage, they're like, you look out there and go, these people are here to see what I have to say.
Yeah. And
And
I have to
you're the expert.
Yeah. And I remind, one of the things I always tell myself is like, loosen your grip. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Just have, and the looser I get and the more fun I have with it, I mean, you can just see by the audience reaction, the more pressure I put on myself and my intensity, it's a different talk. And it ends up being like almost a little preachy. And so I really have to force myself to loosen up and just to have fun with them. And I say to myself, I'm glad they're there. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad they're there. And I care about them. And let's see if we can build some bravery in the room together.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, wanted to ask you, what was one of your brave moves? One, of course, had to have been leaving a company that you had worked for years and say, hey, I'm going to go off on something my own. But what would you say are some of your specific brave moves that you've done, small as well as big?
I would say trying new things. And so it would be real easy to get stuck into what works, right? Like, okay, we know leadership development programs, we offer very experiential learning. And we have people we partner with, they come back all the time. So we're constantly doing stuff and innovating with them. So that seems, that's very comfortable. And so writing a book, very uncomfortable. One of the most uncomfortable things I have ever done, ever. And it was emotional. I had to really take care of myself mentally and physically because you're pouring your heart and soul into this book that may get zero purchases. You just don't know. You're putting it out in the world. Then taking the stage and sharing that message was another brave move because, again, I just wanted to try it. I was like, I really want to speak on stages about this. I'm going to try it. Well, then I began to gain really good momentum. Now, it wasn't always perfect, but I would always go back after a speaking engagement and go, okay, what did I like? What worked? What did the audience react to? And what do I need to refine, edit, enhance to make better for the next time? And there's been times where I've been on stage where something fell flat. I'll tell you, I pulled somebody up on stage once for a live coaching. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, a live coaching. And I didn't know this person, but I assumed they had positive intent. I had positive intent. We're going to coach a quick 7-minute challenge. And it was at an HR conference, and he took the stage because he was unemployed and he wanted to find a job and he wanted to send a message to the HR people. And I remember being so caught off guard by that moment that I told myself, I'm never, ever doing one-on-one coaching on stage again. And then I said, okay, loosen, maybe you need to have more targeted questions and give yourself another chance. But 80% of the time it works really, really well, but there's always that 20% where I'm not sure how this is going to go. And even as I implement and do new things within keynotes, and I have a second book coming out also later this year around the 5 tough conversations for exceptional leadership that every leader should be having. And my goal is for it to be on every leader's desk, that it ends up being kind of their go-to that helps them navigate. It's really their playbook. And so I'm pouring my heart and soul into that right now, which is another brave move.
Oh, it is.
Exciting. Okay, so a chapter that intrigues Steph and I, that's going to be helpful to a lot of people, the art of failing, slips, trips, and falls. And you just kind of talked about that. Tell us more about that, because we do have to learn failure isn't a bad thing.
Right. And we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? I mean,
yes,
we're so hard on ourselves. And so I'll tell you, when I think about slips, trips, and falls, I think about, are we giving ourselves permission to experiment? So I'll share with you in leadership workshops, and we're getting leaders to kind of try something that you can tell they're very uncomfortable about. But we know that's where the growth happens, right? Is in the discomfort. We'll simply say, listen, what about if we all were just scientists for the day and we're just experimenting, we're just trying. What about if we're just trying? And we know it's not going to be perfect. And when it's not perfect, we say, okay, time out. What do I need to do in this moment to adjust it? Or if you're in the middle of coaching and you didn't ask the question, a good open-ended question like we want you to, but you're asking a leading closed one, just call a timeout and say, you know what? Let me ask that a different way. It didn't come out like I wanted. And lean into the question you really want to ask, rather than just sitting there and sulking while they're trying to answer your question. So loosening that grip and giving ourselves permission, especially in leadership workshops, really helps us lessen, the pressure. And we know that if we try all these, different things, that there are going to be some things that are successful, some things that aren't. And that shows up in my one-on-one coaching too. And you can hear when there's some resistance around maybe having a conversation. How do we get it to a point where we know that there might be a little bit of a slip or a trip, but we don't want any falls, right? So what could that look like for us? So I think it's definitely a mindset. And then my big thing, especially, and you'll see this coming in the book and Tough Conversations, is I am like, everybody needs to, at the end of a tough conversation, be able to just have time to process what happened, to be able to think about what you liked about what you did, what you would do differently, and how that might impact some of the moves that you want to make going forward.
I love that you say time to process, because we use the word feel a lot with our weight loss coaching. Is like, how does that make you feel when you eat off track, when you eat perfectly, when you plan or when you don't plan? And also, by not going back and processing our feelings and to go, how did that work out for me? Otherwise, we tend to repeat the same things and go, okay, how am I going to do that differently? But also be ready to give yourself that pat on the back when you did your meal prep, or when you walked in as a leader to a meeting and it went fantastic. Is to give yourself those kudos that you need also, because just like you said, we are also tough on ourselves.
I love that, Steph.
Demand perfection.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to that. So in the beginning, preparing for the conversation, I asked that same question, which is, how do you feel? And I have them look at, kind of these range of emotions, because so many times when they're preparing for the conversation, they're not taking time to acknowledge how they feel about it. Right. And so if they can acknowledge how they feel about it, then they can think about how they're going to manage, depending on the feeling. I don't want their feeling to drive an approach that will not benefit them, the situation, the outcome they're looking for. And so getting clear on how we feel about it, acknowledging it, and then working through it through a series of questions so that we can get the best possible outcome in that conversation, I think is a powerful move. So I love how you tie that in, because we don't always acknowledge in the world how we feel about that particular situation.
And sometimes in business, doesn't it seem like, probably this is an old business model, you know what? We're here to get a job done. That's not how people feel, because some people do lead with an iron fist, or they lead with, it's probably an old mentality, and that's why you're doing what you do. But you think of this big man coming in to a room and telling everybody how it's going to be without any input. No, like, hey, we welcome everyone, like my businesses, I welcome everyone's input. I want to know what works best for you. I want my employees to tell me when they want to work and when they will work, instead of me dictating when they need to work.
Yeah. I had somebody to share with me the saying once, facts don't have feelings. And
Mhm.
so think about that. But the reality is, it's when you're having a powerful conversation or dealing with weight loss, it's a combination of facts and feelings. It's a combination, and you can't just disregard one or the other.
Right.
Very
Right.
true.
And when I was just thinking back to those slips and falls, my clients, where we have the self-sabotaging behavior is in the weeks that maybe they're a little bit off and they don't want to come in and see us. And I'm like, those are the weeks I really want to see you, because the self-sabotaging behavior is, if we don't talk about what probably caused that, then
Yeah.
we're going to continue to trip and fall. So let's come in. And probably the biggest, broadest belief that lightened me up towards everything was understanding that, what if we're just here having a bunch of experiences?
Yes.
And those experiences can help us learn and grow and expand. And then you don't have that mentality going into life, going into a journey, going into a job, a friendship, or whatever, that it's going to succeed or fail. That's
Right.
just an experience to widen my scope and help me grow. And let's roll with it, and let's see, and let's learn from it. Doesn't
So
that feel better?
well, and what you're leaning into is, I'm going to pull this from another chapter in Small Brave Moves, is the importance of leaning on our circle. So you and Steph become that person's circle, right? Part of their circle. And that circle is there to unselfishly cheer us on. And they're there to pick us up when things aren't going as planned, which is exactly what you're describing, and the importance. And so often we think we have to go, whether it's leadership journey or a weight loss journey, we think we have to go at it alone, and we don't. And the more we lean into individuals like you or coaches, right, like me on the leadership side, whatever that looks like for you, the more successful you can be. And we don't have to go at it alone.
So do you ever get asked, because I think our clients are super shocked that I have my own coaches that hold me accountable, that I see, because I think they think we have it all figured out and we don't need anybody.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, I see my own coaches too that are supporting me and pushing me and supporting me too. So do you have your own coach, your own system? What do you do for you?
Yeah. I love, love, love this. Like, I'm so happy. You just gave me goosebumps. I say that the very best coaches have coaches. And
Absolutely.
I say that to everybody. So I even tell people, as you're interviewing coaches, you find out, do they have a coach? That will tell you whether they are invested in their own development. Number one. Number two, always have a coach. And now it may look different depending on what part of the journey. So right now I'm working with a business development coach because I'm intentionally making a shift in my business. And she is really helping me focus in on the areas that I want to, because I can get distracted because I'm super creative. So I'm like, oh, I could do this, this, and this. And she really helps me process and think, what are the highest, most impactful revenue generating opportunities that bring you the most joy? What will that look like? And so she has been my trusted partner. In fact, I get to go on a retreat with her and a group of other women later this week in Sedona, Arizona. And I just wait. It's part of the experience that we're doing together. So I am, I keep telling her, I'm so happy that she's my partner in this part of my journey, because again, I don't have to go at it alone, right? And that I don't have to have it all figured out just yet.
And we never do. It's
Yeah.
again, it's every experience. Like, what am I supposed to learn from this? You're going to come back from this retreat with like, oh my gosh, all these new boom, 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 great ideas and how you're going to implement them. And then you'll be like, okay, again, focus on what are the things that are going to be my revenue generating, most helpful step-by-step processes. But you come away from those retreats with all of this enthusiasm, and we all need those. We all need to step out and say, this weekend or this retreat is about me, instead, and walking away from family and prior commitments and just our normal routine of saying, hey, I got to mix this up a little bit. I need to focus back on me because we are all give, give, give.
Yes.
And so much of our movement with Impact and our Weight Loss Academy and everything that Camille and I do and talk about is, you've got to love yourself first.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you're not taking care of yourself and loving yourself and honoring your journey and going, what can I improve at? And where do I want to improve? And otherwise, there's always going to be areas of our life that we're like, yeah, that's a little messy, but that's not my right now.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want to come across perfect to our clients because we're not, we're
Right.
figuring it out. We're all figuring it out every day.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think that's one of the things that people are going to love about you, Nicole, that I'm sure they already do, is your uniqueness and just you're vulnerable of saying, hey, it's scary for me being up on this stage as well, because I'm sure most people look at it and go, I didn't do that. And you feel the same way inside. But again, once you start doing it, you step into it and you go, I am powerful.
Yeah.
I like the key component where your business development coach said, what brings you joy? Because
Yes.
when we do the things that bring us joy, I was forever grateful for Steph giving me the opportunity to coach underneath her, that in the mornings I was giving complete gratitude that I'm not even going to what I would consider a job.
Yeah.
I'm going to what I am passionate about, and it brings me complete joy. Do you feel that way too, Nicole?
I do. I do. I'll tell you, sometimes work sneaks in where I start going, whoa, 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 how did this get in here? How did this get on my calendar? This isn't, I'm feeling some tension here. And then I have to pause and go, okay, what's the learning opportunity? Maybe I should have paused before saying yes to that. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, generally speaking, absolutely. And I love your abundance or gratitude mentality. I have a practice every morning where I go through a certain 10 different steps, and a couple of them are setting my intentions for the day. So setting my mindset for the day, and also being grateful, taking time to express gratitude for the past 24 hours and what was most impactful for me. And it reminds me just of how much I have to be thankful for and grateful for. And I know that the more gratitude we show, right, that the more abundance mentality, the more that will come. And we have to own that. Nobody else is going to own that for us.
I love it when you
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say your superpower was again?
Oh, transformation, like change, alter, transformation.
And I think that's such a great question to ask people, because people are so hard on themselves, and it's for them to make a list of, like, when our last conversation with Christy Peterson, make a list of 25 qualities about yourself, amazing qualities. That's hard for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And to know what your superpower is and lean into that. And
Yeah.
then it's going to be a trickle down effect, because if you're truly practicing that and you truly are, it's going to trickle down to other people, into every aspect of your life, of your intention and your gratitude. And at the end of the day, that you can look back, hopefully most days, and go, that was good. And
Yeah.
you feel like if you could go back and do your checklist of, did I fulfill my intention? Did I do these things on my list today? And we all put too much on our lists every day.
Mm-hmm.
But to have what's truly important and being aware of doing those things first instead of dabbling in everything.
Yeah. And you're reminding me of how we can zero in on what we can control, right? That embracing uncertainty is such an important mindset for us. And so one of the reasons why I started, in fact, here's my intentional card from today. I set these intentional cards was I felt like so many things were uncertain around me as I was making a shift in my business, as I was doing some different things, and I would get frustrated, and I could feel like the disappointment, sometimes anger inside of me, which triggers other things. And I remember one of the most powerful days, and I was getting ready to go do a workshop. And it's a workshop where most of the individuals are super excited to be there. But sometimes when you're working with a client, people are kind of tapped on the shoulder, like, you need to go attend this. And they really don't want to, but they're there. They got to do the work. And sometimes I would allow that to impact, how I would show up and my attitude and mindset. And so one of my intentions on days I have to do workshops like those, I will say, you can't control how others show up. You can only control how you show up. Bring your A game. And when I did that, I noticed a big shift, and I just held everything lightly and had fun and didn't let the intensity of like, why don't all 20 people want to be better right now? Why not? And so I think embracing uncertainty, zeroing in on what we can control. And one of the things on my cards of, I'll send this over to you if
Yeah, show us that again.
well, this is my intention card, but I have a zeroing in on what you can control card, and it's the
Okay.
19 things you can control. And on
Ooh.
that card is, did you smile? Did you say thank you? Did you eat healthy food today? Like, what are you putting inside of you? Like, those are absolutely things you can control. And then if you're feeling really uncertain, when you flip it over about a situation, it takes you through 4 guided questions, which is, what's the situation? What's the absolute worst that could happen? How can I take care of myself and others in this moment? And the 4th question is, okay, what's the one small brave move I need to make right now? So that they can capture what little bit of control they may be able to of that situation. But I'd happy to send over that card to you so that you can share that out with your listeners. But I find when you look at the things you can control, things aren't as uncertain as we think they are sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And all of those little tips and tricks, and sometimes just like having a specific read or a journal that like this is because it seems like we all have like the work list, the home list, and all these things, but having your own card that
Yeah.
maybe you just take that and you put it in your purse and you take it with you that
Mhm.
day. And you
Yep.
have that situation that comes up that derails you momentarily, that you need to take a deep breath and go, I got this. And
Yeah.
grab out that card and turn your day around
Yeah.
because you're
Well,
impacting people everywhere you go.
and I think 2 things there that we had to explain to our clients a lot. I don't think people understood the back end work that we were doing every day, that I do every day to show up big and bright for you. And you're already talking about, I have steps in the morning. I have steps every morning that I follow, and I show up 30 minutes early and I get into alignment, and I just trust that my words, wisdom, and actions are for everybody's highest good. But the 2 things, living life with intention,
Mhm.
right? You're talking about that. You have an intention card. Don't just let life be lived for you. And second fold, people don't see the back end work that you're doing that is
Yeah.
moving you in this direction to show up like you do, Nicole.
Yeah. And I haven't always been this way, right? I'm still a work in progress.
You
But I'll
are.
tell you, like that building out these habits have been just a game changer for me. And I know I'm a better person because of it. And I just deeply appreciate it. And I'm happy to send over this being intentional card too. And it has a list of questions that I developed, like, what does being my best self look like today? Is there a relationship I want to invest in today? What's one thing I can do for me today? Because we often put everybody above us,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Are there any boundaries I need to set for myself or others today? I asked that question because I know there's days where sometimes I have too many meetings that are kind of energy drainers. And I'm like, okay, are there any boundaries I need to set? Can I anticipate any conflicts today? Right? How do I want to deal with that? And what's one thing I want to accomplish today? And just something so simple and thinking about, right? So for me today, it was about I choose statements. I came up with some I choose statements, space to create some new content that I need for my second book. And I wanted to build relationships today. So most of my sessions today are all about building relationships.
I love
That's
that.
Thank
great.
you.
How do you plan out your day? Do you have a calendar that you're like, this is my schedule, or do you work more in like I've seen a lot of theories and talks lately about blocking time.
Yeah.
Like this is my time block that I'm going to work on XYZ project. And
Yeah.
when that time is up, then I'm going to be done and I'm going to spend some time reading. Or hey,
Yes.
this is my self-care time and I need to go for that 10-minute walk.
Yeah. I time block from 7 to 9. That's when I do my morning routine. And I won't, unless there's a unique circumstance certainly of some sort of emergency, I won't allow anything to creep in before 9. But 7 to 9 is my morning routine, right? To get ready and to get mentally strong and physically strong for the day. And then I time block the rest and I color code. So I use Google Calendars, but I use the color coding. And so I know how much time I'm spending on activities that will successfully impact my business or myself, right? And so I look at those two, and that really helps me stay focused and on top of everything that I need to do. So I think that that is so important, in having that time to and then I can look to see, like I was looking at this week going, gosh, I don't have a lot of time to create new content that I need. This is a problem, right? So making sure that it makes you so aware of how you're spending your time, which directly leads to whatever results you're looking for.
So tell us, who would be your perfect client and some fun success stories?
Yeah. Somebody who would, somebody who just wants to be better, like that recognizes, I'm here and I want to be here. Nicole, help me get there. And whether it's with them or their team or their business, just recognizing that something is either they want to invest early or something's a little off, and it's time for us to get in realignment again as a team, as a business, and some of the work that we're doing. And so those that have a growth oriented mindset, those are my absolute favorite, because the results that we can achieve together are just exponential. And it's so much fun doing it, because you're just like, oh, because you know which ones, what's going to work when, and then you see it and you see them just cheering each other on, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. So those are my absolute favorite. And I'll tell you what, I work with clients all over, large, medium, small, nonprofits. And I do a lot of, like I said, one-on-one team coaching, and then workshops when not speaking on stages. And really the one that's, and maybe this is because this is the work I'm doing right now around tough conversations and the book and the speaking, but I am attracting a lot of people who have not had the tough conversations. So I'm working with a client right now who they weren't having any conversations within their business, and dysfunction has creeped in, and now a new culture has kind of begun to take over. And so we're working to get down to the basics of what it needs to be, right? Not just the what we're going to deliver, but the how. Behaviorally, we're going to come together as a team to be our most high performing self. And that requires a series of conversations and work. And so often we get so focused on what's the goal, what's the objective, what do I need to accomplish, that we don't take time for the how, which is, what do you expect from me? What do I expect from you? If I have to challenge you or give you feedback, what's the best way to do that? If I'm seeing something you're not seeing, can I share that with you? And how do you want to receive that? I mean, specific questions that help take out the guesswork of building a really powerful relationship for each other.
And what you're talking about could be used in any relationship, friendship, marriage, dating, with your children, of like, how do you want to be seen?
Yeah.
What can I learn from this? One of the last questions like people asked were, how can I support you? Because sometimes you need to be a listener, and sometimes you need to be someone giving that advice. And
Yeah.
I bet when you're talking about your perfect client, you walk away from those situations of learning something from them too,
Oh,
because
without a doubt.
everybody's experience, and it's so great. Like, even like in our world, with when we're visiting with clients about weight losses, someone will come up with, like, oh my gosh, this is my meal prep routine, or this is my daily routine, or my intentions and my practices and how I go about my day. Is we can take that information and share that with our other clients.
Oh, yeah.
So that exchange of information and learning, it's like we're never done.
Mm-hmm.
There's always room to learn and grow, and being brave enough to know that there's more to learn,
Yeah.
instead of that high executive feeling like, I don't need your ideas. I've got it all figured out. So that openness is just a great culture that I'm sure you're help fostering within all of your greedy meetings and everything that you do.
It's interesting. I love your how can I support you? One of the things that I use with clients, especially with coaching clients who are like the fixers, right? Like somebody will come talk to them, they're like, oh, I need to come in and fix this for you. And it's just simply asking the help, hear, or handle. And sometimes I'll throw in hug as the fourth one. But when you start the conversation and you're diving into it and they're just kind of sharing whatever they're sharing, and it's like, okay, do you need me to help you? Do you need me just to
Mm.
hear you, or do you need me to handle it? Right. So it's actually hearers first. So do you just need me to listen? Are you just going to vent? That's all you need from me, right? If you need me to help you, then we're going to have a coaching session, right? And I'm going to help you think through what the best way to handle that is. If you want me to handle it, that means I'm going to take it and I'm going to do it my way, right? And I will take care of this for you. And then the hug is sometimes we just need a hug, right? We're just in a situation where it's like, this is just one of those huggable moments, right? Where we can just kind of laugh at the what's happening and just take in that moment.
Yep, we all need that hug throughout the day, because there's days that are just fabulous and there's other days that aren't, but you'll need those hugs always.
Yes.
So, and that's just part of the finding the joy and the connection with people that make you confident to know that you can make those brave moves and have those tough conversations because you are loved and cared about and supported. And
Yeah.
I think sometime in business, there's a fine line there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's why I think so. The first conversation, I'm going to jump in real fast to the first conversation of the 5, and that's the how we work. And I think when we don't have that, we don't know, like, do we have each other's backs? Like, are you going to be there for me? How do I know you're going to be there for me? What does that look like? And how do I want you to feel supported? I want to make sure you know I have your back. And when we don't have those conversations and are clear on that, we just kind of guess, or we set false expectations for each other that we can never meet up to, because I have my expectation of you in my head, you have your expectation of me, and we're never going to be able to live up to it because we've never even had the conversation, right? And that's where you get into these simple, misunderstandings, or things brew and turn into something much bigger. And it's not common to have those conversations in the workplace. And that's why I know that if we can have that first one, the first couple of types of conversations, we should have a lot less of the "you're not at your best, I need you to be better," or the moving on conversation, which is, this just isn't working. And so my goal with leaders is we're going to get really good at those first 3, which is all about building that and refining that relationship. So if we do have to have the being better or the moving on, well, we can't control everything, especially how they show up. We've done everything we can as a leader for them to be successful.
It's so true. It's like you have to give someone the skills and then they have to be ready to shine. But hopefully they've taken those things and they're ready to be like, hey, I'm ready to make my brave move. We only have you for a few more minutes because we know you've got to pop off early. But tell us how people can reach you and where they can get your book. And then we will go and post those intention cards and kind of share some more Nicole to our followers as well.
That's amazing. Thank you. Well, I would love you to follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on Facebook. I put a lot of content and information on LinkedIn. My website is www.nicolembbianchi.com. I always put resources. I'm in a little bit of a redesign for the next 2 weeks, but if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get some great resources. And you can purchase my book if you're in the Omaha area, because I know this is far reaching, or your local bookstore in any area, or Amazon.com is another great way to easily get the book. And I've got it out on hardcover, softcover, and audio. And it is my voice, because my publisher said, you need to do that. So that was another small brave move, was not just recording the audio, but then having to go back and listen to it was the other brave move. Because I don't know. I don't like how my voice sounds when I hear it, but so.
We're usually that way. So tell us then, your next is an upcoming book. And
Yes.
when will that be launched? When will that be coming out?
That will be in August is our time frame right now. The cover is being designed right now, which I'm super excited about. So I'm hoping to reveal that on social here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we'll begin our 8-week marketing plan and launch and all the awesome stuff. So what's going to be really cool about the book is for each one of those 5 conversations, I have 11 conversation openers that you can use to open that conversation, which is what I found in my research leaders struggle with most. Is I don't even know how to open it, set the stage for the conversation to happen in the way I need it to. So you're going to get a lot of really cool tools and processes in the book as well.
That's fantastic. Well, we want our listeners to know that we are giving away a book. So the second person on Facebook who comments that I want that book, we're going to send one out to you. So Nicole has been a phenomenal guest, and I can't wait for your next book and hopefully get together with you again sometime.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much for having me, Camille and Steph. I have loved
Yes.
every moment. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for
This has
being
been
with us.
great.
But
Okay, so over the break, Steph and I did a wrap up. We went, okay, what are the takeaways from Nicole? She was incredible, wasn't she, Steph?
She was great.
Okay, so some of the takeaways that I got from it was, and I know it's something that we've talked a lot with our clients about, and what I've really learned in my life is living your life with intention instead of letting life just be lived for you, because we end up resentful that the outcome is like it is, but what intentions did we actually set? And I love the Remote Academy because it offers you this amazing journal that you sit down and you receive it, and every day you're going to have to start learning to live with intention because you're marking all these things down. And aren't people shocked when they start living their life with intention and doing the steps every day, how much better they feel?
You feel so much better. Even just that, if it's like Nicole's morning routine where she talks about from 7 to 9 is her time to set intentions. If it's physical exercise, if it's, prepping for her day. But when you do that, even if you do it for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
like Miracle Mornings, there's a whole outline of things to do. Even if you shorten it down and you do it for 5 minutes, your intentions, it's a great start for the day, and you feel better doing that. It says, I'm important enough. Just like when we ask people to say, I am statements, I am worthy, I am strong, I am cherished, I am successful. All of those is just like you hear it and you're like, of course I am. And then you go and you take charge of your day. But without those attentions, it's almost like slow down to accomplish more
Yeah. And I love
by
how you said that,
making those
because
goals.
that morning routine and what you were saying, if you start the day with you, you're announcing in an indirect way, I am worthy and I am important.
And this
Without,
is my day.
yeah, yeah. I really like that. Okay, the second takeaway that I got tickled at was everybody needs a coach.
Yes, everybody needs a coach. Think of it from children. They have softball coaches, they have teachers, they have parents. Everybody needs a coach. Professional athletes have mindset coaches, have they have Tony Robbins because they can afford him.
Yeah.
Everybody has a coach. If you're trying to improve yourself, if it's therapy, which is great, if it's a weight loss coach, if it's a business coach, if it is just a life coach,
Mhm.
because life is messy. And
Yeah.
if we can acknowledge that we want more and we want to push ourselves, otherwise, if you're like, I'm fine right now. And there's times in our lives where it's times to push, and there's other times that it's time to sit back and reflect
Yeah.
and enjoy. And then there's other times it's like, nope, I'm ready to get going. And that's your energy. And again, everybody needs a coach. Like Camille and I talk all the time
Yeah.
about showing up, but we didn't show up this way years ago.
We didn't. And so it also goes back to that chapter, something about your circle in her.
Yes.
You need your circle, you need your people. So like, sorry Steph if I overstep, but this morning we're getting on Zoom and she says something kind of self-negative. And I went, whoa, 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 no, we're not gonna. And she's like, thanks, Camille, for reminding me of that. And you do a lot the same for me, that's our circle. That's our people that are holding us up and supporting us. And we want to see you when you're doing good. We want to see you when you're not doing so good, because we're your circle. And everybody needs that.
And it's okay to, when those people are in your circle, we need to hear those things and we need to take that brave small brave moves back to that of, hey, Camille, you haven't been doing such and such lately. Or, gee, Steph, you seem a little bit off. What's going on? How can I help you? How can I support you? Those type of things. Like even over the weekend, Camille and I spoke and had a real heartfelt conversation that, sometimes you just have that friend, you have that person, and I just listened.
Yep.
And that's what
Okay. So that leads us into what was your favorite The 4 H's that she talked
And
about.
she said, do you need my help? Do you need me to just hear this, as in just listen? Do you need me to handle this for you? Or do you need a hug? And I love that, because there's so much of the time as coaches, life coaches, weight loss coaches, leadership coaches, that you want to come in and go, oh, the answer. I know how to, I've heard this before. Some people don't need that. That maybe that day they do, maybe that day they just need to be heard. And it can be venting. Sometimes it can just be complaining. And sometimes that's just what you need, is you just need to get it off your chest and you need someone to listen to. And that's what we like to do. We like to think that we do at Impact,
Yeah.
because it's all about change and growth. And just like Nicole said, so much of the time, the struggle is in the tough part. You know, when you're in the weeds, that's where the growth tends to happen, and how we come out and how we shine after we do slip, trip, and fall.
Yeah. And then I told Steph, I feel like the biggest takeaway, if you are considering, getting your own coach, and it's just in general in life, we have to start approaching others with more of an open mind. I mean, we certainly can't coach anybody or talk to anybody if you're not going into the conversation open-minded. She's going into big companies, but if they're not open-minded, they're not going to listen to what she's even coaching them to do. That we've sat before people that they, well, tell me what I got to do. Well, this isn't going to go well, because you're just already here. And if you're not approaching this, that, can you give me some different ideas? Evidently, I'm here for a reason. What are some things that I can do? I want to be open-minded about this.
And taking a different approach, and sometimes stepping back and go, boy, the way I've been doing it isn't working. Kind of like jokingly when I say to someone, I'm like, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to continue doing the same thing, that's why we say Impact, this is a permanent weight loss program, because you need to make those changes permanently. If you go back to doing whatever you're doing, if it's business-wise, relationship-wise, eating, you're going to get the same results. So that's why you have to set those intentions daily, sometimes even hourly. Especially what if during the day you just get off track and something derails you? Wouldn't it be great to have that intention card
to reset you? So before we go, tell our viewers how they can get a hold of us and the Remote Academy.
Impact Wellness is, you can find us in Grand Island, Nebraska. We actually need to do a pretty big announcement about our change of our name to Santa Vita Wellness, and a bunch of the changes that are happening there, which I think we'll reveal. But right now you can still reach us at yourimpactwellness.com. And then our Academy link is on there if you're wanting to do the program more remotely. But we're there for you. That's the best way to reach us. Phone number 308-382-4522. But again, I think the best step, find us on Facebook, look up Impact Wellness, yourimpactwellness.com. Reach out to us about this episode, and someone's going to get this book. But go back and watch those other ones too. If you like what we have to say and you want more of this, we have more great guests coming up in the next month. And we're so excited to introduce you to these coaches of ours that have impacted our lives that we want to share with you. And that's, I think most of the guests so far have been our coaches.
I have. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you in a couple of weeks. And once again, Nicole Bianchi. And I'm not sure what her website was, but Small Brave Moves, go in and check her out. And we thank you for taking time to listen to us today.
Exactly. Happy Monday.
Thank you for listening to No More Rules, the impact of being you, no matter what. Tune in live the first and third Monday of every month at 8 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join the movement to awaken your inner power and be the creator of your own healthy life with hosts Steph Yost and Camille Barreto, where clean eating is at the core of our inner growth by honoring our body and health. They help shift perceptions, encourage thinking outside the box, and overcoming limiting behaviors and beliefs. You are worthy of living your best life, developing your inner power with clean eating and a healthy lifestyle, discovering your awesomeness. To find out more about Steph and Camille's wellness and weight loss coaching, visit yourimpactwellness.com today and schedule a consultation.